Hi there, I'm Professor Jonathan Singer. I'm the Vice Chair of the CAAT-Academic Bargaining Team, negotiating on behalf of full-time and partial load faculty at Ontario's 24 public colleges, and this is the fourth of a series of videos on SWFs, what they record, how to read them, and how to identify and correct any errors in your workload assignment. This video will be looking at time for complementary functions each week and discussing how that time is determined and recorded on the SWF. So, our workload includes three components that are related to the courses that we teach, and a fourth component, complementary functions, that covers everything other than the teaching and preparation and evaluation of assigned courses. We've talked about teaching contact hours, class preparation, and evaluation and feedback in the first three videos in this series. In this video, we're looking at complementary functions, which includes all work during a SWF period that is not associated with teaching, preparation, or evaluation of assigned sections. That includes routine out-of-class assistance to students. It includes normal administrative tasks, and it also includes any other work assigned by your supervisor. To wit, Article 1101 F1 of the Collective Agreement states, complementary functions appropriate to the professional role of the teacher may be assigned to a teacher by the college. Hours for such functions shall be attributed on an hour-for-hour basis. Some sample complementary functions, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, include course development, mentoring or liaising with other faculty or support staff, assigned professional development, required meetings, participating in open houses or other events for the program, faculty, or department, work associated with program review, or work associated with ministry approval processes. All of these are complementary functions. All of them, if assigned, should be itemized on your SWF with a specific amount of time on an hour-for-hour basis recorded on the SWF for each of those tasks. One of the other tasks are coordinatorships. These are also complementary functions, but they cannot be assigned against the will of the faculty member, and they're unique in that way. Coordinators are teachers, which is to say professors or instructors, who, in addition to their teaching responsibilities, are required to provide academic leadership in the coordination of courses and or programs. Coordinators report to the academic manager, who assigns their specific duties, which shall be determined prior to the acceptance of the designation, subject to changes as circumstances require. Those employees who are designated as coordinators will receive an allowance equal to 1 or 2 steps on the appropriate salary schedule. So I'd like to point out here, if I may, that providing academic leadership in the coordination of a course is considered a coordinatorship and should entitle the person doing that leadership to an additional 1 or 2 steps on their salary schedule. So subject lead, course lead, all of those designations would be coordinatorships. And again, coordinators report to the academic manager, who assigns their specific duties, which shall be determined prior to the acceptance of the designation. So it should be clear to the supervisor and the faculty member what duties are associated with the coordinatorship, what work is required, and how much time will be provided each week to complete that work. Beyond that, there are some complementary tasks that are not assigned by the manager because they are automatic, and these are called allowances. They include a minimum of 4 hours for out-of-class assistance to students. Any faculty member who is teaching and receiving a SWF will receive the 4 hours for out-of-class assistance to students as a minimum. That includes office hours and email assistance. So it's not like faculty have to do 4 office hours a week and then proceed to do email. Not unless they're given additional time beyond the 4-hour minimum for out-of-class assistance to students. If you have a large number of students beyond 260, the collective agreement also allows for a minimum of an extra 54 seconds for every student, and includes a process whereby you would consult your manager to agree upon an amount of time that you should be provided for the additional students for out-of-class assistance. Beyond out-of-class assistance, the other minimum allowance in our collective agreement is the 2 hours for normal administrative tasks. Once again, that's a minimum. I can see any number of cases in which a manager may find it necessary or desirable to give professor or professors more than 2 hours for normal administrative tasks. Now, moving on to the SWF, once again, this is either what we call the front of the SWF or above the line, depending on the conventions at your college. And we can see the complementary hours columns. The last 3 columns include complementary hours, and then the totals column on the far right. I'm going to move to the next slide. The complementary hours columns are here in green. On the left, we have the allowed, remember I made reference to an allowance in the collective agreement, the allowed complementary hours. And on the right-hand green column, we have the assigned complementary hours. I'm going to magnify that just a little bit. And you can see that the assigned complementary hours, the right-hand column in green, has a total of 2 hours. And on the bottom row, 6 and 2, those are totals of the rows above. And this chart on the bottom right of the screen, complementary functions for academic year or SWF period, is likely something that you would find on either the back of your SWF or below the line, depending on how your college does it. I'm going to refer to the back of the SWF. And you'll see here that all of the complementary functions for the period are itemized. Routine out-of-class assistance to students, normal administrative tasks, those are the 2 allowances. And here, the minimum, a number of hours are being provided. And then beyond that, there's a half hour for meetings, an hour for program review, and a half hour for faculty development portfolio. Those are assigned, they're required, and they are itemized on the SWF, and time is provided for them. And if you look at that, the meetings a half hour, program review 1 hour, and faculty development portfolio, that equals 2 in total. And that 2 is the same as the 2 of assigned complementary hours. So these hours are all carried over from the list of complementary functions on the back of the SWF or below the line. And these would be where they are all totaled based on which ones are allowed, which is to say required by the collective agreement, out-of-class assistance to students, and normal administrative tasks, and which are assigned. And again, assigned must be identified, must be listed and enumerated with a specific number of attributed hours for each item listed. And any work that is not listed on the SWF under these complementary functions does not need to be completed. It's not part of your work assignment unless it's directly related to the teaching, the preparation, or the evaluation of one of your courses, which is listed elsewhere on the SWF. That's a very brief overview of complementary functions. Thank you very much for watching. You can turn to your workload monitoring group with any questions that you may have. Please feel free to share this with your colleagues. And in our next video in the series, we'll talk about how to resolve a dispute between you and your manager around perhaps, let's say, the amount of time that is required by the complementary functions that are being assigned. Thank you very much. Take care. This video is intended only for informational purposes for OPSU CAAT-Academic faculty members and should not be treated as authoritative advice. Also, it should not be introduced in whole or in part in any dispute resolution proceeding. For authoritative advice on the SWF, please consult your union local or the union-appointed members of your workload monitoring group.